public investments, and other important issues shaping Liberia's future. Through this program, we are increasing economic literacy. I'm your host, Mohammed Melvin Quinn. Last week, we focused on the government's ongoing investments in roads and electricity, examining the financing behind major infrastructure projects and what they mean for Liberia's development. We heard from the Minister of Finance and Development Planning, Honorable Augustine Gafwa, who provided updates on several key projects and the government's implementation agenda. This week, we are turning our attention to a reform that will strengthen transparency, accountability, and fiscal governance in Liberia's public financial management system. The Ministry of Finance and Development Planning, in partnership with the Liberia Revenue Authority, has officially launched the Tax Expenditure Management Act of 2025, marking a major step in Liberia's ongoing efforts to strengthen fiscal governance and enhance transparency in public financial management. Folks, to help us understand the significance of this landmark legislation, how it will improve public financial management, and what it means for businesses, investors, policymakers, and the Liberian people in general, our guests on today's edition are Mr. Ebenezer Nyah, Technical Focal Point in the Office of the Deputy Minister for Fiscal Affairs, and Mr. Mamadee, Bility, Director of Indirect Tax Unit. In this edition, we'll also bring you MFDP Weekly Review, a highlight of the ministry's major activities over the week. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Thank you for staying with us on the MFDP Hour on this Thursday. We encourage you to invite your family and friends to tune in as we continue discussing the work and priorities of the Ministry of Finance and Development Planning. If you are joining us, remember that the program is also streaming live on the Ministry's Facebook page, YouTube, and LinkedIn pages, as well as the ELBC Facebook page. Every week, the Ministry carries out activities aimed at strengthening public financial management, supporting economic growth, improving public services, and advancing the government's development agenda. For a roundup of the Ministry's latest activities and achievements, let's now join Christine Dean with MFDP Weekly Review.
Good evening and welcome to another edition of MFDP Weekly Review, a summary of the activities of departments and units. Here's a rundown of major news stories for the week. Finance and Development Planning Minister Augustine Gafwa has pushed back against claims that the Unity Party-led government is merely implementing infrastructure agreements negotiated by the former government. Minister Gafwa, during an exclusive interview recently with the MFDP Hour, described that the true measure of leadership is not signing documents, but delivering completed projects that improve the lives of Liberians. The minister dismissed what he described as politically distracting arguments over who deserves credit for development agreements, insisting that the Boka administration is focused on transforming commitments into tangible results. Minister Gafwa also revealed that since returning to office, he has signed more than US $304 million in development financing agreements, including additional funding for the strategic Ganta Saketi Road. He recalled his previous tenure in government, in which he signed the US $249 million financing agreement for the Red Light of Ganta Highway and initiated the first financing agreement for the Japan Freeway project. However, Gafwa stressed that signing agreements alone does not translate into development but proper implementation. Gafwa argues that many financing agreements remain dormant for years because governments fail to fulfill the conditions required to activate them. According to him, every loan agreement must first receive legislative ratification before the government finances the Resettlement Action Plan, RAP, to compensate individuals and businesses affected by construction projects. Without these legal and financial obligations being met, he said, projects cannot move beyond paper, disclosing that when the Walker administration assumed office, it inherited several store infrastructure projects burdened by unpaid compensation claims and overdue payments to contractors, forcing many companies to suspend operations. Governor emphasized that President Joseph Walker's administration is placing greater priority on delivering infrastructure than engaging in political contests over recognition. The Ministry of Finance and Development Planning, in partnership with the Liberia Revenue Authority, has officially launched the Tax Expenditure Management Act, a major step in Liberia's ongoing efforts to strengthen fiscal governance and enhance the transparency in public financial management. Speaking at the official launch held at the Monrovia City Hall on Tuesday, the Deputy Minister for Fiscal Affairs and Acting Minister of Finance and Development Planning, Honorable Anthony G. Myers, described the occasion as a significant step toward improving the transparency and accountability in the management of tax incentives and exemptions. Minister Myers emphasized that the legislation represents a critical reform aimed at strengthening domestic resource mobilization and advancing Liberia's public financial management framework. He noted that the Act establishes a comprehensive system for identifying, measuring, reporting, and monitoring tax expenditures, including deductions and other incentives granted to businesses and individuals. The launch event brought together representatives from key government institutions. The event will be followed by stakeholder engagement and an awareness campaign across the country in the coming weeks. The Liberian Senate has confirmed Benedict Y. Harrison as Deputy Minister for Administration at the Ministry of Finance and Development Planning, following a successful confirmation hearing before the Senate Committee on Ways, Means, Finance, and Budget. Harrison's confirmation comes after senators reviewed his professional qualifications, administrative experience, and wisdom for strengthening institutional efficiency at the ministry. During the hearing, he outlined plans to enhance administrative management, improve operational systems, and support the government's broader economic development agenda. Senators confirmed the nominee due to his extensive experience in public administration and financial management, expressing confidence in his ability to contribute meaningfully to the ministry's mandate. Following a report from the Committee on Ways, Means, Finance and Budget, chaired by Bon County Senator Honorable Prince K. Moy Sr., the senator voted to confirm paving the way for his appointment by the President as Deputy Minister for Administration. Harrison will be responsible for overseeing the ministry's administrative operation, personal management, logistics, and institutional support functions. His role is expected to be critical in ensuring the efficient functioning of one of Liberia's key government institutions responsible for economic planning and fiscal management. Harrison replaces Deputy Minister Bill Mamadee Jones, who has assumed the position of Deputy Minister for Administration at the Ministry of State for Presidential Affairs. He was nominated on March 26th of this year by President Joseph Walker Sr. Those are the latest for today's edition of the MFDP Weekend Review. Back to the team for continuation of the MFDP Hour.
That was Christine Dean with MFDP Weekend Review, bringing you the latest highlights from the Ministry of Finance and Development Planning. The launch of the Tax Expenditure Management Act of 2025 by Acting Minister Anthony G. Myers on Tuesday represents a significant milestone in Liberia's public finance reform agenda. For many years, tax expenditures, including exemptions, waivers, and other preferential tax treatments, were administered on different legal instruments without a single framework governing how they were approved, monitored, reported, and reviewed. To help us better understand the objectives of this act, why it is necessary, and how it will benefit Liberia's economy, businesses, investors, and citizens, we are pleased to welcome to the studio tonight our guest, Mr. Ebenezer Nyah, technical focal point in the office of the Deputy Minister for Fiscal Affairs. Mr. Nyah, good evening. Welcome. How are you today?
I'm good, and it's a pleasure being on the platform.
And we also have Mr. Mamadee, Bility, Director for Indirect Tax Unit. Mr. Bility, welcome to the MFDP Hour.
Thank you very much.
And how do you feel here today? Is your meeting appearance on the program?
Well, I feel good because it affords the opportunity to inform our Liberian people what is obtaining the level of Ministry of Finance with respect to Tax Expenditure Management Act.
Okay, so let's begin this with Mr. Ebenezer here, who's a technical focal point in the Deputy Minister for Fiscal Affairs Office. Mr. Yan, someone out there listening will say, what do you mean by tax expenditure? Because on Tuesday you launched this Tax Expenditure Management Act, new law. So what is tax expenditure?
Okay, Mohammed, thanks again for the question, and it's a good way to start. So, tax expenditure basically is whatever government waives to an actor within the Liberian economy.
Mhm.
So, what that it is called expenditure because what would have been paid into the consolidated account that should have been directed toward rules, toward health, toward education, you know, is now being waived to you as a taxpayer. So that can take the form as reducing the rate that you're supposed to pay. If you're supposed to pay 25%, you are now paying 15% or 5%. That can be also in the form of exempting you from paying taxes for a certain period of time to allow you set up your business, and that can also be in the form of waiving a certain activity. Like for example, rice in Liberia is not subject to any tax, and that is because you know our rice problems. So the president has always waived taxes on rice. So that is also a tax expenditure because had that tax being enforced, that money would have come to the consolidated fund, and that money could be directed toward education, toward health, toward markets, toward salaries, toward the welfare of Nigerian citizens. So that's why the tax expenditure is very important because whatever government waives to a taxpayer is everybody money.
We'll obviously talk about the benefits of giving those waivers, but so now it means that this new law will just manage tax expenditure in a single framework. Is that what the law wants to do?
Exactly. So the law provides key things. Firstly, managing in the single framework. Second, the law demands greater accountability, transparency.
Okay.
So that means everything is going to be open to the Liberian people. Everybody is going to be able to see through the implementation of this law, whatever is waived to any taxpayer. So that way is not going to be a secret anymore. The system is going to be open. You have a public register. You have reporting responsibility to the national legislature,
Okay.
and you can check to see which company within your community is benefiting from what.
We'll often talk about the details of the law now that we know tax expenditure and what it means. Uh, Mr. Bility, has there been the existence of a framework, uh, a tax expenditure framework before? And so we want to know, why do we have to have a new law if we have an existing tax expenditure framework?
The driver of this law are, many. One, there has been no single law that have managed tax expenditure in Liberia. Waivers are given at the level of the National Fund through the Revenue Code. Waivers are given through the National Legislature. Waivers are given through the executive, from the president, or executive order. And this time around, we have seen the need to synchronize in bringing everything under one law that will be used to administer tax expenditure. You understand? Because tax expenditure is very cardinal to our economic growth.
So there were many laws. There were many frameworks existing for the legislature, for the executive, and
Yeah.
other places.
For
So
example,
now you bring it on a one management.
thank you.
framework.
For example,
Mhm.
concession agreement is done at the legislature.
Okay.
Smaller businesses that are not that do not meet the concession standard, we do that in the revenue code of Liberia. And to a certain extent, when the president see the need to exempt certain businesses for some reason, he issue executive order.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this time we bring everything on a one platform.
Like the president issued executive order say all those bringing agricultural equipment in the country will not pay tax.
Thank you very much. Exactly my point.
Okay.
Yes. So this law, we kind of, analyze everything that had to do with tax waiver because it's revenue forgone that should have been used otherwise for our development agenda. Okay.
Okay. Mr. Jan, you want to weigh in before we go to the next one?
Yeah, so the first thing is this law provides certainty to businesses. So everybody knows where to go and what to do. That's what the law provides. The next is the law also provides greater accountability, responsibility. So for example, the law provides that the Ministry of Finance will be reporting annually on whatever is foregone in revenue. The law also provides greater responsibility for those who benefit from tax expenditure. So it's not going to be business as usual where you benefit from an incentive. You come to us, you tell us that, okay, I need this incentive to set up a shop. And when I set up this shop, I will employ 4 Liberians. And then you just go. Under the law, you will have to report to us actually that you will employ 4 Liberians.
Good. Now, what are the institutions that will be implementing this law? Yeah, law has been launched. So, what are the institutions that will be involved in the implementation of the law, Mr. Bility?
Well, the Ministry of Finance, in collaboration with our external partner, the LRA.
Okay. So, what are the respective roles? What will you do?
So the first thing is the law provides that the oversight is with the Ministry of Finance, and administration, implementation is with the LRA. What do we mean by that? It is the Ministry of Finance that has the responsibility to approve incentive certificates. Now,
and maybe has a church or has a school or has some sort of institution or business. We want to know who are those qualified for these incentives and what type of benefits are covered under this new law.
So churches and charitable organizations are all benefit from the law as well as businesses. But for the businesses, they account for waiver given them. Okay. But charitable organizations, churches and mosques are exempt. All right. You bring in your goods, you let it go free. But for businesses that hold incentive certificates, we expect them to catalog what is giving you in terms of waiver. And at the end of the reporting period, we expect you to do a report. to the tax authority.
Why do you give businesses waivers? They are involved in businesses.
Okay. The primary reason why we give business a waiver is that they contribute to the problem of employment in Liberia. Okay, we give them waiver to employ our people. We give them waiver for investment promotion. All right, we want more investment in our economy. So we give them waiver. At the end of the period, they account to us what have they done with what we gave them. Okay.
So
But before this time, government have had no knowledge or account of what is giving businesses in terms of waiver. There was no statistic. Okay.
So this new law will now find solution.
Thank
to that.
you. We're holding accountable for whatever we give them. At the end of the period, we match what we give them vis-a-vis the revenue collected.
Mr. Jan?
yeah, so basically, these waivers are not just given out of the blue sky. They are given to help people set up their business. The government issues them these tax incentives.
Yeah, because someone say all of those incentives. People will be paid to government revenue and then government get more money, expand the budget.
So you are talking about Sino. Imagine a clinic in Sino, right? If that clinic was paying taxes, the services that clinic is providing will not be as affordable as it is. So the government waive those taxes to make their burden lighter so that they can be able to supply their services or treat a pregnant woman at an affordable rate that people can afford in Sino. There are other institutions like churches, the charitable organization, mosques. They are also they're not operating for profit. They are operating to help people get better, right? So the government supports them. Also, too, there's some agreements that the government has signed called treaties, international treaties, right? Those international treaties, when they say international treaties, that document that every government go together and sign and say when your people come to work in my country to represent you, we'll waive taxes on them. When your people from your country do come to work in their country, they will also waive taxes. So, like for example, I gave you this example. The citizens of Liberia that work in the American embassy, in the Liberian embassy in America, they don't pay tax in America. They pay taxes here. Similarly, the citizens from America that work in the American embassy here in Monrovia, they don't pay taxes here. They pay taxes to their country. So that thing, the big people call it reciprocity. Why I lose, you gain, and why you gain, I lose. So those are the people. Now, in terms of the issue of the statistics, actually, currently there are statistics, for how much is being waived. But this one will help to better manage the people who are benefiting from these incentives because it will put everybody in one document. And that document will mean that the LRA will have a place to verify that you truly have a legitimate certificate. So it's not going to be wherein you just show up to the LRA and there's no reference point. There's no place to look to see that, okay, this guy truly went through the process and is entitled to this. Now we will have everything in one, what we call database, one big document that LRA will be able to look at so that you cannot be able to abuse it. And will report to the Liberian people on whatever is being waived.
That's good. So one of the major requirements in this act is the incentive certificate. What is this certificate and why it is mandatory before anyone can enjoy tax incentive?
So incentive certificate is your proof. It's the only proof you have that document. So think of it this way: before you drive car in Liberia, you should have a driving license, right? Driving license is a proof that you can drive. Driving license is a proof that your eye can see clearly. driving license is a proof that you are a lawful citizen, right? So the same way how you need driving license to drive, that's how you need the incentive certificate to benefit from incentive. And the incentive certificate will specify what incentives you are to benefit from. So, like for example, the driving license, those who have light vehicle driving license, they can drive truck, right? The same way with vice versa.
Yeah.
So the certificate will tell you exactly the scope, exactly the things that you will benefit from. And it is that certificate. So, for example, specify those things, and they say for the next 3 years, those things will not be taxed, because in the mindset of the people that wrote this law, they know that in 3 years you should be able to set up your business and start to become operational, right? And start running your business. So most of all the certificates now will not last for more than 3 years going forward.
Wow, that's good. Yeah.
So having being in possession of the incentive certificate does not stop you from paying other taxes.
So where do I get my incentive certificate?
Well, it is recommended by the Investment Commission to the Ministry of Finance that will do the economic analysis. If the fund fit, will grant you the certificate. But being in possession of the certificate does not stop you from paying other taxes, like your corporate income tax, your personal income tax, the withholding on the salary of your employees.
So the certificate doesn't cover all of the taxes you have to pay.
No. Not at all.
So when I hustle, I get my certificate, my incentive certificate. You know, my staff will not pay tax, and all the other taxes I will not pay.
Your staff will pay tax.
Okay.
You will pay corporate income tax. But at the level of international trade, when you bring in your imports, is where certificates works where.
So think of it this way, right? In the LRA records, they identify different categories of people. They got something they call legal person, and they got something they call natural person. Natural person that
to ensure public confidence in the management of tax incentives. Yes, you're doing all of this, but someone may say they may get sitting down and giving the tax incentive to the many, the many kind of give it to them, they take small thing. So what is there that you will show to the public that we're doing this transparently? These are the people that have benefited, these are the names, what does the law say about that?
In anticipation of the implementation of this law, the Ministry of Finance, in collaboration with LRA, had designed, special procedure to control who owns, who holds certificate. There'll be a register, all right. Between now and January, it will be announced on air that incentive certificate holder will be registered. So we know then the identity, and we have them to account for whatever waiver they receive.
So the first thing is, just to buttress my colleague, under this new law, everybody will be subject to one rule. There's no big man, there's no small man. Everybody will be subject to one rule. the same procedure.
Okay.
That's one thing. Another is that the document will be open for everybody to see.
You will
So
publish it?
it will be
Yeah,
published.
be published.
In fact, it will not just be published, right? Because when you say being published, that means I will do report to publishing. Every day you will see who asked to that number.
Yeah.
So it will be on live, what they call. So every day you're going to actually see what have been added to that number and what's the cost to you. Because at the end of the day, as I just mentioned to you, tax expenditure, that all of us money that we're giving to one person, right? That money should have come in the charge in a box, in a what we call the big part, from which they can do the budget and spend to create jobs and what have you for everybody. So the fact that we say don't put it in the pot, take it away, that means everybody that got ownership of that pot deserves to know how that money is being spent. So that will be public.
And by the law, the chances that you transfer your certificate to a non-certificate holder is not going to be possible. Because, during our analysis of the past, more than 20 years now, people hold certificate and transfer it to non-certificate holder to bring goods, that will be waived. So this law will put stop to that automatically upon coming into effect.
Okay, so you will have a register. Now, we also have reports on this tax expenditure.
Every year when the budget is being submitted, you will have that tax expenditure report also submitted. So the capital, the lawmakers will have that. So just how Liberians can discuss the budget, Liberians will be able to discuss it.
What will be in that report?
That report will highlight every legal instrument, the cost of every legal document. So for example, the cost of the executive orders that the president issued to the country, whether on rice, how much we are waiving on rice, it will be in that report. Then concessions, all these big companies, ArcelorMittal, B Mountain, how much each of them benefiting from, it will be in that report. And then you go to private businesses, the smaller ones and all, everybody will be in that report. And you will see them categorized on a different thing. Religious institution too will be there. How much this church benefited in tax waiver, it will all be in that report. So the report will be a big comprehensive document that will be presented
every year.
And additionally, the report will also point to the employment aspect, because in your financial model, you said you were to employ 100 Liberians. So at the point of your reporting, how many persons that you have employed will be in a report.
And I think you remember that brings me back to something that happened of recent, right? You heard people contesting the job statistics, right? Now you have somewhere to reference, because people, you will see the new jobs that are created from every business as a result of the incentive that government gave them. It will all be in that report.
Now, before you provide these incentives to businesses, charitable institutions in government, what do you do? What's the process? You go through before these incentives are approved, and then after that, we want to know, how does this process help ensure that tax incentives benefit the country rather than becoming a burden on government revenue? Because this is taking revenue from government, So we want to know how the people will benefit. But just draw us through the process on how you come to the conclusion that a specific institution can benefit from tax incentives.
So there are two categories of beneficiaries. One are people who benefit as a result of their status, like religious institution, all of that. Then the next is the businesses that apply to the LRA, to the Ministry of Finance. They will send their business document to the Ministry of Finance. Ministry of Finance will look through it to see that your money that you come in spending in the economy is not drug money, is not terrorist money. They will also see that your business is also profitable. They will see the amount of jobs that your business will create for the country. They will see all the good things that are in your document, and they will weigh against how much you are asking us to waive to you. So when the good things that are in your documents is far above how much we are going to waive to you, then they will now approve your business to say, okay, yes, this guy is ready and we can do business here. Then they will issue you the incentive certificate. Now, but again, if you are below 10 million, that's when that certificate can only be issued to people who are from below 10 million. The investment. If you are above 10 million, 10 million and above, when Ministry of Finance does that, go look into your people or inside, they will send you to the legislature who will ratify the against one big name they call concession. They will do the concession. And concession means a big, very big business that the government will help. The government is almost like a co-owner in the process of that, because the government decides to say, okay, go and operate this place for this amount of time, and afterward, you what they call, so you will pay taxes, you will do this. So it's government asset, because for example, the mines where the iron ore is sitting, that iron ore is for every Liberian. So if the government gives you the right to go and operate that mine, that is a concession. Government is almost like leasing that place for you to operate.
So to buttress what my colleague had just said, the process begins at the National Investment Commission. Okay. The business will present their business model to National Investment Commission. The NRC will do the analysis and recommend that business to the Ministry of Finance for the granting of the certificate. The Ministry of Finance, there's a time bond attached to that. The Ministry of Finance may grant that certificate or disallow.
Why would the MFDP look into to allow?
Would request you to bring your bank statement.
Okay, let's say I run an orphanage home.
Yeah.
And my crews are reported around this tax incentive. Will you go to see the orphanage home and maybe look at the orphans that are there before you can get when they?
If you are recommended by the National Investment Commission, we are on obligation to visit your location and certify that yes, indeed, this person is saying the truth. They have this, they have that. Then we are technicians. We tell our minister yes.
So for orphanage home is treated like church, is treated like government institution, and all of that. All that you need is the legal document, your paper that give you the right to operate orphanage home in Liberia. So once that paper correct, you are entitled to those benefits. So for orphanage home, you don't need incentive certificate. You just need to show up with that paper that give you the right to operate orphanage home and prove that you actually operating orphanage home, because you are already entitled. The reason why you are entitled is because orphanage home is not for profit, and we need people to take care of orphans. So if you decide to take care of orphans, the government supports you in taking care of orphans, and that's why the government waives those taxes on that particular activity.
Okay, so if I'm opportune, to get a tax incentive from the government of Liberia, is it for eternity? Is it indefinite? Or is there a time that the certificate lasts?
Yes. So there's something called sunset rule that is in the law, and the sunset rule is almost looking like we say never will come.
Yeah.
You know there's a famous saying that night may come and no one can work. Is it work while it is day, right? So that particular certificate only lasts for 3 years, and after 3 years they will cut that line off, and you will be entitled to pay every tax going forward. So that certificate is not forever. But remember, that certificate is only given to businesses, right? So non-for-profit institutions, every time they are importing, they should import on duty-free. Diplomatic missions, every time they're importing, they will import on duty-free. Government ministries, every time they're importing, they will import on duty-free. So those ones are businesses that are not businesses or activities that government will continue to support. But for those that are making profit, those are the ones that are subject to the incentive certificate, which lasts for this amount of time.
And another thing, It can be renewed based on your compliance status. If you comply with the law, you do your reporting, and you are strictly in compliance, it can also be reviewed after the 3 years.
Some people are worried that these stricter rules could discourage investment. Now, how does this act strike a balance between attracting investors and protecting Liberia's domestic revenue?
So the first thing is the act provides a simple ABC steps that any business can follow to benefit from incentive. So that way the act actually attracts investment rather than discourage investment. No, a simple ABC rule that anybody can read and understand and flow. And besides, that's why we are doing this activity. We are going to engage with every major stakeholder in the business community to tell them going forward, just do A, B, C, and D, and you'll be good. So it's not going to discourage. It's not one that will discourage businesses. No, it will further attract businesses.
Okay. Now, how does this legislation align Liberia with international organizations? Let's say we are in the ECOWAS region. Is this law, that cut across, the entire region, or is it only for us, as a country?
So there's something called the ECOWAS directive. ECOWAS rules are directions that they give to countries to follow. We call it directives. So one of the ECOWAS directives said that every member state, that means every country within ECOWAS, should have one single law that addresses or deals with tax expenditure, and is in compliance with that Nigeria has passed theirs.
And there's a requirement for the IMF and World Bank extended credit facility, and also is the PFN requirement. PFN reform law mandates that there should be an expenditure report for the period.
Now, what's the responsibilities, individuals and companies receiving tax incentives have on this act?
So the first thing is between now and December, because this law will be fully implemented January 1. But between now and December, everybody that holds an incentive certificate.
So the law has been launched, but implementation starts January 1, 2027.
Yes, because the first thing is we want everybody to know the law before we can start holding them to the standards.
Okay.
So between now and January 1, which is now and the end of this year, every incentive holder, everybody that got certificate, we have to go and register. If you don't register, January 1, you import a goods, or January 2, you import a goods, you will not benefit from the incentive, because the LRA will have to look in that registration document, that place where we put everybody that register. They will have to look there to see that your incentive certificate is valid, right? That means it's correct. So between now and that time, everybody will have to register. Under the law too, every year, those who hold that certificate will have to report to the LRA, which they can call filing, to the Ministry of Finance. You have to tell Ministry of Finance, I created 4 jobs. Here the people here. I created 3 jobs. Here the people here. This is the amount that you all gave me in tax incentive. I was supposed to pay $40. I didn't pay $40 this year because of this document that you all gave me. Right? So they will have to report on what they are benefiting and what they are doing good for the Nigerian people. They will have to report on it every year.
We will try to go through the lines. But before we go to the lines, so if a beneficiary fails to comply with the law, what are the penalties?
You in hot water. The first thing is they can be able to suspend or cancel your entire certificate, the Minister of Finance. Besides, you can also be charged to pay that tax that you benefited from with penalties and interest. The next is they can even refer you to the court so that you can go to South Beach, right? So they can prosecute you. So those things are there. So you that get a certificate, there are things you can do. You can transfer your certificate or misuse it, as my colleague mentioned, right? The next is you also have to report you have to also be in that register. You have to report every year on the progress that you made, every material change. That means every kind of, if for example, new person join you to make a business, you got to report. So everything you got to report. And then every time LRA doing audit, when they knock your door, you got to be there to give them the records. So you got to keep records for 7 years.
Okay.
So in our tax law, let me ask a little.
Yeah, so let's just go for the break and we'll come back, then we can continue.
Okay.
You are listening to the MFDP Hour ELBC. Today's edition is focused on the recently launched Tax Expenditure Management Act of 2025 and the government's efforts to strengthen fiscal governance, improve transparency, and enhance accountability in the management of tax expenditure. Mr. Ebenezer Nyah, technical focal point in the office of the Deputy Minister for Fiscal Affairs, and Mr. Mamadee, Bility, Director of the Indirect Tax Unit, are my guests here tonight. We're taking a short break. When we return, we'll open the telephone lines for you on the MFDP Hour. Phone-in segment where listeners from across Liberia can join today's conversations. There's an opportunity to ask questions, seek clarification, and share your views on today's topic. The studio numbers are 0775 677 372, 0775 677 376, or 080 514 0775 677 376, or 0880 514 096. Just make your questions brief. Our studio guests will answer to your questions today. We're talking about tax expenditures, tax waiver, tax holidays, and all of those expenditures on the show. 0775 677 376, 0880 514 096. The numbers to get your points through right here on the MFDP on ELBC 99.9, 0775 677 376, 0880 514 096. Mr. Bility, you were trying to make an addition.
Yeah, like Ryan is saying, for you talk about the punishment, there is one penalty regime in the Liberian tax code. If you fail to comply, the punishment is there.
Okay. So let's go to the line and get this caller. Caller, good evening. Welcome to the MFDPR.
Good evening.
Good evening. Your name and where you joining us from, please?
Yeah, I go by the name Shaka Bobby
Zreju. Okay. Let's hear you from Grenji there.
Yeah, it's a great thing to see your citizens and tax, but then in a country where people are not, self-sufficient, are they able to pay tax for property that they have, and they are not, getting...
If you following the discussion, this one is about paying tax. They want government say we're waiving taxes on certain businesses and certain institutions that are helping our people. Yeah.
Or it's about waiving taxes on them.
Yeah.
I heard it like imposing tax on them, but the right thing is government can do that. It's going to strengthen the library because some smaller businesses, are not earning from what they produce or what they are selling because we have other competitors, in foreign businesses. So the government can remove those taxes and make library to be inquisition or some business that foreigners are doing. I think will help the library economy.
Thank you. Thank you so much. 0775 677 376, 0880 514 096. The numbers are right on the MFDP hour this evening. If you have concerns, you can put your concerns through that number. We're talking about tax expenditure, tax waiver, tax exemptions, tax holidays. The government said they are putting it on a single framework to help in its management. Let's go to this line. Good evening. Welcome. Good evening. Please go ahead. I don't know why. 0775 677 376. Let me go back to this line. Good evening. Go ahead.
Yeah, how you doing?
Good evening. Go ahead. Go ahead. Let's hear you.
I prefer the government. You know, because if that is done, the government will put this thing to feel that you create job for more people.
Okay. Talk about thank you so much for that point. But this is what we're talking about tax expenditure. We're talking about tax exemptions. So 0775677376080514096. We can take 2 or 3 more calls, and then we go to our guest to wrap it up. Hello, go ahead.
Hello, good evening. I'm Ramos speaking from 72nd.
72nd, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, healthcare institution are they one of the exemption from the tax? And then, just elaborate on the healthcare institutions.
Okay. So you want to know if healthcare institutions are exempted? Hello, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you so much. So, my name is Solomon LG Fongo. I'm calling from Bangabong County.
Yeah, go ahead, Solo.
Thank you. I listen to your studio guest. That is very, very cool for us in this country. But my question has to do with what will happen? What is the mechanism that government is putting to pay for those businesses so they can be able to work now in the interest of the Nigerian people? Thank you.
Okay, businesses provided tax exemptions. What would they do to help the Liberian people? Let me take this second to the last call. Go ahead quickly.
I just want to I think we should not include foreign entities or foreign entities. Just for Liberia.
Foreign entities. Okay.
Yeah. And also,
Did they mention the foreign entities benefit? Okay, they will tell us if foreign entities are qualified to benefit. Yeah. Thank you.
yeah, because I really want to say that Liberia only.
Okay. Thank you so much. So let's respond to the calls. We are out of time.
Yeah, so to the last column, the way the law looks at a resident is not by the color of the person that owns the business. So once a business stays 183 days, in fact 90 days now, that business is deemed to be a Liberian resident, right? So the Liberian resident means that business is entitled to pay taxes here, right? And obviously, given the activity that business is involved with, government has to also support that business to set up, because at the end of the day, when that business set up, that business will
So the law doesn't look at Liberian owned or foreign owned.
no.
Yeah. So
As long as the business, yeah.
So,
Yes.
So under the WTO rule, there's no discrimination of businesses.
Okay.
We encourage diversity, whether you come locally or foreign. We encourage diversity.
Okay.
And health institutions are also they are one of the beneficiaries under this act. So that issue about health institutions, yes, they are beneficiaries.
Okay. So those were the major concerns. So thank you so much for coming this evening, Mr. Nyah and Mr. Bility. It's been a wonderful presentation talking about tax expenditure, this tax waiver, tax holidays, and this new law that manages the expenditure in a single framework. It's been a wonderful discussion with you. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, Mohammed. It was really a pleasure being on your platform.
Well, this I will come to the end of today's edition of the MFDP Hour. I want to sincerely thank all of you, our listeners across Liberia and around the world, for spending the past 1 hour with us. We hope today's edition has given you a better understanding of the Tax Expenditure Management Act of 2025. Our guests are Ben Ebenezer, Nyah, technical focal point in the office of the Deputy Minister for Fiscal Affairs, and Mr. Mamadee, Bility, Director of the Indirect Tax Unit at the MFDP. Thanks to all of you for listening. We'll be back next Thursday with a brand new edition of the MFDP Hour. I've been the host, Mohammed Melvin Quina. Have a wonderful day from Pinfield. It's about Freetown. Yeah.